Hello and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time we went to a tea place with Hanako and Lily and had a good time. And now we are, and we agreed to take Hanako to the store after class. And that's what's happening. Well, now we're in class after the festival and everybody's like, oh, I'm so tired, festival was so many things, blah. And then Misha's like, I don't get it. During classes it becomes apparent that it's not only the students that are a little despondent after the festival. Muto simply gives us a list of exercises from the textbook and then sits behind his desk. I totally forgot about the brief lunch period for a moment. Such is the banality of the day. It's mind-numbing, and everyone seems surprised when the bell signals the end of the lessons. As I'm packing up my bag, Shizune and Misha flank and entrap me. No, don't entrap me! This is entrapment! Stop it! This is against the law!
Say, Hee-chan, it's still not too late to join up. There's a lot of post-festival paperwork for us to complete.
Sorry, Misha, I've got plans. As if sensing the cue, Hanako appears behind me holding a small bag and trying to avoid eye contact with the outside world. Misha's eyes open wide, and then she bursts into laughter.
You move fast, don't you, Hee-chan? We won't disturb your date any further.
Behind the roaring Misha, I see Shizune taking far too little interest in the scene. I might be taking this the wrong way, but I think she's deliberately ignoring me. I feel a gentle tug on my shirt and turn to see Hanako's eyes fixed firmly on the floor. Let's... Got ya. Shizune, Misha, I'll see you later. And I'm still not interested on the council.
Spoil sport.
Misha and Shizune retreat into the hallway, happily signing to each other. Got all your stuff? Let's head off. Floods of students pour out of the school gates and onto the road into town. It's a little weird. It's almost a scene from any other high school, but the illusion fades because of the occasional wheelchair or missing limb. One thing I do notice is that nobody's alone. And as Hanako and I pass through the gates, I notice that she closes the distance between us. Not enough to be considered close, but she certainly isn't at her usual just a little far position. I guess we're not familiar enough for her to get as close as she does with Lily. I mean, understandably, she's known you for a week. If even that. You guys haven't even really been talking except the last few days. However, even though she has moved a little closer to me physically, mentally she seems to have traveled a mile. Her hands clutched around the leather strap of her bag to the point of whitening her knuckles, her head down, and her mouth pursed closed. She almost looks like she's being walked to the principal's office for the first time. I try to stifle a giggle at the thought, but it is futile. What's the matter? I guess there's no point in hiding it. Sorry, for a second there you looked like you were getting in trouble.
What do you mean?
I think you need to relax a little. We're not going too far, and it's only students around, right?
Right.
It bothers me a little to see Hanako so worked up. And you do this every week, don't you?
Yes, with Lily.
Of course with Lily. I wonder, has she ever left the school without her? It doesn't seem like much at first glance, but Hanako's dependence on Lily is absurdly heavy. If she can't even handle leaving the school without her, how would she have managed to survive if the two had never met? Would she have found someone else to latch onto? And what drew her to Lily? Was it her lack of eyesight, or was Lily just kind enough to lend a hand? I wonder if anyone would have fit the bill. Well, I'm here. Besides, we're not going far. It'll be over before you know it. Hanako's knuckles slowly regain their color as she tries to hide a small smile, but the effort of that seems to prevent any further conversation. We travel side by side down the winding road toward the town. The crowd of students thins as we continue along the sidewalk. Faster students rush ahead and less mobile ones far behind, rarefying the crowd into nothingness. By the time we reach the convenience store, we are practically alone. Using me as a shield between herself and the attendant, Hanako moves through the narrow aisles, adding an assortment of items to her basket. Bread, milk, tea, thyme? What kind of convenience store sells herbs? This kind. Then again, nothing about this town seems normal, which may not be such a bad thing in retrospect. Everything is so different and uncomfortable. Dwelling on such matters isn't an option. Well, when I think about that, it reminds me of Hanako. No matter how much you try, you can't escape her scars. They still interrupt my train of thought when I see them. As much as I don't want to admit it to myself, I think I'm forcing myself to try to ignore them. Not that I am scar-free myself, the jagged line around my sternum will never completely fade away. I just have the luxury of being able to hide it easily. But in a way, both of our scars remind me that we're all in this place for a reason. Hanako throws one last item into her basket, then sheepishly holds it out to me, along with a few banknotes. Could you please? It takes me a second to understand what she's trying to say. Oh, you want me to pay for this? She nods, but doesn't look up. I guess the task falls to Lily on the usual occasion. Sure, let me just grab a couple things. I hastily grab a few essential items for myself and head to the counter with Hanako in close tow. The attendant gives me an indefinite nod as he scans the items. I suppose just ignoring us is one way to deal with the anomalies of Yamaku. They must get a lot of students here, being the closest store to the school. Big ol' yawn. The staff must all have their own way of dealing with us. Or maybe they don't. Maybe it's only me who thinks twice about my unique schoolmates. Our transaction complete, Hanako and I head back out onto the street. The road is pretty much abandoned now. The students that were heading out have already left. And nobody has started returning just yet. With only the school ahead on the road, there doesn't seem to be anyone else around. The emptiness certainly reflects on Hanako, her arms by her sides, each carrying a bag, her head no longer bowed and back to an upright position. It's almost as if she were enjoying this walk. Well, so why all these weird things? Mixed spice? Why would you need that in school? I sometimes like to make food. Oh, well, yeah, so do I, but spices? Imagine cooking. Wow, Hisao. That's a little more advanced, don't you think? Not if you like your food to taste good. Not really. Well, I think it's cool. You'll have to teach me one day. Sure. She doesn't seem all that sure, but pushing the point doesn't seem all that wise. At the very least, she seems a great deal happier than she did on the walk down here. That alone makes me a little happier. Outside the girls' dorm, Hanako and I sort out the grocery bags with our respective purchases. In comparison, my things look positively plain. I tell you, you're putting me to shame here. No, I'm not. I'm only joking. I have a stack of homework that I skipped last week, so I must leave now. Will you be alright getting that to your room? Yeah. Sure? Okay then, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. We part ways and I return to my room. Piles of papers sit upon my desk, begging to be completed. With the entire ruckus of the last week, I've barely had any time to catch up. I tried to keep up with my studies while I was in the hospital, but some of this stuff I've never seen before, even back in my old school. Totally unprepared, I pop the top of a can of drink and get to work. That was shorter than I thought it was going to be. The days are really starting to heat up. This morning I woke covered in sweat. By the time the student body starts leaving their dorms for breakfast and morning duties, the sun has taken full effect. Oddly, that puts me in high spirits. It's not even 8 yet, yet I feel that this day is going to be one of those pleasant, tranquil, warm ones. If I weren't at a school that considered every absence from class as a sign of a life-threatening situation, I'd consider skipping the whole day and just relaxing in the school gardens. Yes, today will be a genuinely lazy day. For a second, I stop in mid-stretch and consider the nurse's warning about exercise. Maybe I should have kept up with those morning jogs. Running with someone like Emmy might have been a little testing, but if I worked at my own pace, who am I kidding? I couldn't stick to something like that without some kind of motivation. It's not like I sit around all day. The walk to and from the convenience store counts as exercise, right? Especially the walk back up the hill. Yeah, it's no big deal. Compared to months of lying in the hospital bed, I'm getting plenty of exercise. Whatever helps you sleep at night, Hisao. It seems that I'm not alone in my appreciation of the day. Nearly every member of the class is glancing through the window and into the tantalizing sky. Even the steadfast Shizune seems to lack her usual vigor for schoolwork. Misha, as brazen as ever, has even unbuttoned the top buttons of her shirt and is fanning herself with a notebook. She's a real one. I must have been staring, as now she's sticking her tongue out at me. However, she shows no signs of halting her efforts, nor is she trying to hide the fact. No, why would she? You're the weird one, not her. She's hot. She's just trying to cool down. The lunch bell seems to catch everyone by surprise, and the class empties at a much slower pace than usual. The heat seems to be draining the need to rush from everyone. Well, almost everyone.
Hisao?
There, Hanako. What can I do for you today? Hanako already has a lunch bag in her hand. I don't have to be a detective to work out where this is going.
Would you like to have lunch with us again? I brought enough for everyone.
Awesome. You don't have to be so stiff about it, though.
Right.
I take it we are going to the tea room again?
Please. Lily said she'll meet us in there, so we should go ahead together.
Sounds like a plan. This heat has made me pretty hungry. Hanako breathes a sigh of relief, and I gather my things together. As usual, the aura of the tea room is refreshing, feeling isolated from the rest of the world. Then again, the usual din of the school seems to be a bit subdued, most likely from laziness promoted by heat exhaustion. Hanako slowly spreads her food on the table, intently focusing on every little movement as if she's trying to keep her mind off other thoughts. It's not much, but I can tell from her demeanor that she has prepared everything with the utmost care. I guess Lily isn't here yet. Should we start without her?
She'll be here soon.
Hanako struggles with the lid of the container of rice. Here, let me help with that. I take the container from Hanako's hands and try to force open the lid. Try as I might, it seems wedged shut. Let me guess. Did you put this in while the rice was still hot?
Yes. I was in a rush.
I put the container on the table between us. I thought so. It looks like this is wedged shut. We'll need some hot water to get it open. But that could be a pain in here. We'd get water everywhere.
Well, in that case, how about I contribute to today's meal?
At the door, Lily smiles while holding up a bag stocked with various buns and bread rolls. I can't help but do the same.
Since you two had a change of plans because of me, I thought I would bring a little something.
Thanks, Lily. Here, let me get that for you. With a little guidance, Lily's bread assortment joins Hanako's riceless platter. I hastily make some tea to complete the picture. Well, I'm looking forward to this. I would be too. As I take a bite, I notice Hanako trying her hardest not to look like she is looking at me. It's nothing special, but then again, I can't really complain. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to cooking for myself. Not bad. I guess this is made with the stuff you bought yesterday?
Yes.
Hanako's eyes shout at me, begging for some kind of feedback. Well, it was clearly worth it. Thanks, Hanako.
No. I wanted to show you this after yesterday.
It's okay, I was just a little surprised at the stuff you were buying.
Hanako's always liked to experiment when it comes to food. I think it's good. Most of the time.
While Lily's smile doesn't waver, the slight change in her tone tells me that things have not gone so well in the past. It's not like Hanako has many people to sample her cooking. Hang on. Was Lily waiting for me to go first? She didn't start eating until after I said it was alright. Her cheeky grin tells me that this was a deliberate action on her part. I'll have to try and work out how to get one over on her in the future to make up for this. Well, it's good. And that's all that counts, right?
Right.
Lily, satisfied at not being the first to sample Hanako's creation, begins to consume the food in front of her. I find myself staring as I watch her chopsticks gently touch the plate, their tips delicately poking and tracing to quickly ascertain the positions of the food as she dexterously picks it up. One might think she were a child playing with her food if not for the situation, though she does it with such care and thoughtlessness that it's obvious this is simply how she eats this kind of meal. Not wanting to miss out, I start filling myself up. Hanako takes a different approach, waiting until Lily and I have our hands clear before quickly snatching up her share.
Yeah, she cooked this, so she wants you guys to have as much as you want. Like a host.
Before long, the containers are empty, save for the still-shut rice container, when she can eat it later for leftovers.
Thank you, Hanako. That was filling. No, thank you for the bread.
Yes, it would have been a disaster if not for that.
You're both welcome. But now, I must be getting back. It's far too easy to be late after eating here.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think we'll just clean up here and then head off.
Well then, good day.
Lily leaves, her cane tapping away down the quiet hallway. Hanako and I quickly pack our things and stay seated, waiting for the bell. Together we stare out the window and into the endless azure sky. If it weren't for the pealing of the bells, I would have sworn that time had stopped. The urge to skip class arises in my gut. I shoot a glance at Hanako, who shows no signs of moving either.
Not just yet.
The interval between the warning bells and the end of lunch bells passes in the blink of an eye. We should really go. People will freak out and start a search party if we skip. Hanako sighs.
You're right.
Slowly she rises to her feet and I follow suit. Silently we make our way up the old stairs and third floor and then to our classroom. At the door I take point and open the door ahead of Hanako, bowing my head down in apology in advance. I'm sorry we're late, teacher. I'm greeted not by stern words nor by an angered instruction to take my seat, but simply by the silence created by 15 or so students trying not to laugh. Muto, ever tardy, has yet to arrive. However, the fact that Hanako and I have arrived together is blatantly obvious. Make that about 14 students trying and 1 student failing.
The lovers return.
Yeah, thanks, you can calm down now. I step through the door and realize that Hanako is firmly pressed against my back, hiding herself from the class. With my steps coming closer to my desk, she eventually breaks from me and stiffly walks to her own. Her efforts to mentally block everyone's presence from her mind are written fairly clearly on her face. Quickly checking the door for any signs of the teacher's arrival, I make a trip to Hanako's desk and whisper in her ear, "Don't worry about Misha, she's always like this. I enjoyed myself today, don't sweat it, okay?" Hanako nods her head behind her folded arms and still doesn't show her face. That's nice of him to reassure her. He's just like, heck her, she's a nerd. I yearn to stay and console her more, but Muto picks this exact moment to enter the class halfway through his lecture, as if he started it in the hallway. Which of course is directly proportional to the charge, but inversely proportionally to the square of the distance. He's so engrossed in his speech that he doesn't even notice me sneaking back into my seat from Hanako's desk. While Muto rambles on, Misha leans over to me.
The teacher may not have noticed your tardiness, but I did.
That much is obvious from the show you put on.
I have been instructed to let you off the hook for today, but only on one condition.
Oh, and what would that be?
You have to help us this afternoon.
I crane my neck to look over Misha's shoulders. Shizune is conveniently not making eye contact with me. Fine, just for today. I already told you I'm not joining the council, remember?
Of course. Doing so would be considered.
She looks down at her notebook, obviously looking for her place in her script.
Under duress, and hence would be against regulations.
How very strange of you to be considerate of the regulations now.
Things should be done by the book. It's just that the book hasn't been written for every situation, so there are times when it can be ignored.
And yet you two wonder why no one else wants to be in the student council.
Angie.
After poking her tongue out at me, Misha returns to her workbook and we battle our way through the latter half of the school day. They're so fast. Before I can even stand up, Misha and Shizune have placed their hands on both my shoulders. Hey, I said I'd help out, damn.
This is just insurance, Hisao. Insurance.
Hisao? Hanako timidly tries to leave the room by circling around us, and I suddenly realize that this may be my one chance to escape. Oh, hey Hanako, what's up?
Hey, what makes you think you've got time to chat?
Oh, relax, this won't take long. Sorry, Hanako, you were saying? I was going to go to the library, and I thought... Hanako's thumbs dance around each other, and her eyes flit around the room, looking everywhere but at us.
Sorry, Hanako, but Hisao has to come with us. He's got work to do. Man. Oh, but you can help too if you'd like. So how about it, Hisao?
Oh.
Let's see. We must think like the Hanako.
I don't think she would like us putting the decision on her. Because that would be way too much pressure on her, especially from Shizune and Misha, who are like super abrasive. So like having to make her make the decision seems like a bad idea. I don't want to put the decision on her. I think she would be really unhappy about that in this situation specifically. Asking her opinion is different, but I think that if she were faced against these abrasive individuals, she wouldn't really feel comfortable declining because she'd be afraid to. So I'm gonna say I've done enough work for the council already.
Heck off.
Hey, Shizune, I know I said I'd help, but I forgot I'd already made plans. Besides, I helped out more than my fair share last week, didn't I? I promise I'll make it up to you some other time. Shizune and Misha release their grip on me and have a long, deep, and silent conversation.
Well, you have a point there. To be honest, we were going to spend the rest of the budget on cakes. So if you're not there, it works out better. More cakes for us.
Shizune about faces and marches out of the door, and Misha skips out after her. Well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Last week those two were like bloodhounds or prison guards. Or maybe prison guards bred from bloodhounds. I can't believe I just thought that, let alone saying it out loud. I think I need to move away from Kinji. Never mind. Anyway, should we go to the library? Sure. Hanako follows me through the still-covered halls to the library, using me as a shield. It's Yuko! As soon as we are through the door, Hanako bolts for the counter where Yuko is stacking books. Before I can catch up, Hanako has whispered something to her. You'd find that in non-fiction, but I don't know where exactly. If you want, I can look it up. Never mind. Hey, Yuko, what's all this about? Oh, Hisao. Hanako was just looking for a book on... nothing. A book on nothing? In the non-fiction section? I was just... I shoot a glance at Yuko. She looks like she's about to burst from the pressure of keeping Hanako's request secret. Yuko, what did... Chess. She's looking for a chess book. I make a mental note to never entrust Yuko with any important information. Yuko! I'm sorry, Hanako, it just slipped out. Well, it's not a secret anymore. Come on, I'll give you a hand. I should really brush up on my skills, too. Oh, okay. Yuko disappears behind the counter in shame as Hanako and I wander into the depths of the nonfiction section. I know there's supposed to be a system for categorizing these books, but I don't see how anyone can decipher it without spending half of their life researching it. That's probably why all of the librarians I know are neurotic. Towards the end of the aisle, between a book on card tricks and some book on kids games, stands a single book bearing the title Chess Tactics for Champions. Before I can reach for it, Hanako has the book in her hands, clutching it to her chest. Well, I guess that's yours then. Mind if I borrow it when you're finished? Sure. I just haven't really played against anyone but Lily before, so I thought... Damn, it's not like I was trying to beat Hanako deliberately or anything, but she seems to have taken it to heart. Then again, at least this means she wants to play with me again. That's a plus, right? Heh, well, it's not like I'm a master or anything, I just played a bit before. It occurs to me that I haven't told Hanako about my condition. I falter for a second, deciding to cover my tracks. That is a conversation for another day, before I came here. Are you alright? Yeah, I was just remembering something. Something tragic. When I think about it, I shouldn't be afraid to tell Hanako about my condition and my time in the hospital. Judging by her scars, she probably spent a fair amount of time in a hospital bed. But for some reason, I can't bring it up. At least not today, and not on short notice. Eager to break off the conversation, I grab a random book from the shelf. It's some book on the world's fastest roller coasters, published in 1982. Well, not very up to date, but it should at least be interesting. Well, we both got books now. Should we go sit down? Hanako seems to accept my bluff, and we head to the reading nook in the back of the library. Neither of us says a word. We simply open our books and start reading. I try to read my book, but it would seem that in 1982, roller coasters weren't nearly as large as the ones built in the decades since. Most of the ones listed are made of wood. Something about that doesn't seem safe to me. It's not.
But that's part of the thrill. The danger.
If I'm going to ride on something potentially dangerous, I want it to be made of steel or some kind of space-age alloy that has big words like titanium or ruthenium or unobtainium or vibranium. I quickly lose interest and my eyes wander across the reading area to rest on Hanako. I just stare at her like a creeper. Hanako seems absorbed in her book, flicking back and forth through the pages as if confirming what she just read. I wonder if that's actually effective or if she's just overloading herself. She unconsciously brushes her hair from her face, temporarily revealing her scar tissue. I'm not sure about the protocol here. Is it right to ask her about her scars or her past? How long was she in the hospital? Does she still visit the doctor? These all seem like questions that you'd ask someone who just transferred to your school, translated into your local language. What? These all seem like the questions that you'd ask someone who just transferred to your school, translated into the local language. What? But to date, no one has directly asked me any of them. Well, except Ren, but I don't think I should use her as a guide to proper social behavior. You shouldn't. I love Ren, but she is not socially acceptable. For the time being, I'll just keep my mouth shut. If someone wants to know something, then they'll tell you. Trying to force the issue might drive Hanako back into herself. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to close the library now. Already? I checked my watch somehow as I was lost in thought. Nearly 2 hours have passed. Do you want to check out those books? I can do it on the way out. Please? I'm done. I'll drop this one back on the way through. It wasn't as interesting as I first thought. Hanako marks her place with a slip of paper and stands up. The girls head to the counter and I return my book to what I think is the right shelf. Yuko scans Hanako's book with practiced precision, yet still manages to fumble it. Oh, there we go. Third time lucky. Since this is non-fiction book, you can only have it for a week. That's okay. Why is that a rule? Yuko shuts down the library's computer and herds us out the door. Ugh, I didn't think it was this late already. But you're the one that told us you had to close. Yes, I know, but that was before I looked at the time. I'll see you later. Bye, Yuko. Yuko bolts down the hall, her handbag trailing behind her like an awkward streamer. I guess all librarians really are neurotic. Huh? Never mind. I was just thinking that I've never met a librarian that can organize their time, no matter how good they are with their books. Oh, I know what you mean. Hanako smiles in amusement. It wasn't meant to be a joke, but I must have reminded her of some other librarian or something. I have to get back. Yeah, me too. I didn't realize it was this late. Thanks for letting me hang out with you. No problem. I'm going to my dormitory room now anyway, so do you mind if I tag along? Okay. Hanako sits off ahead of me, and I need to jog a little to reach her side. We walk through the gardens, eventually arriving in front of the dorm buildings. Man, you walk pretty fast. I used to play soccer club, and you managed to outpace me. I kinda regret saying that. It has less to do with her pace than with the fact that my condition has significantly worsened my fitness. Hanako's reaction is odd. I expected an awkward attempt to downplay her walking speed, but she just blushes while looking at her feet and smiling. Okay. That is, that's... It didn't seem like that weird of a reaction until you pointed it out. Silence hangs in the air between us. That happens often around Hanako, but feels slightly different than usual this time. After a few seconds, I try to break the silence. Here you go. See you in class tomorrow? Sure. Hanako waves a short goodbye before pushing her way through the dorm's doors. I stand and look at them for a while before making my way to my own dormitory rooms. Boom, boom, boom. Chirping birds. Okay, I'm gonna leave it off here. We have gotten pretty close to Hanako. We had some lunch with her, and we went to the library. And it was nice. She's our friend now. We're friends. I really hope that Hanako is not the one that had the sexual relations with Kenji. That would have been horrible for her. That would have been so horrible. I mean, it would be horrible for everyone, but it would be especially horrible for her. She's so little. And she's so, like, she doesn't trust easy. As she shouldn't. You can't trust these hoes. Especially not Kenji. He's a crazy person. But that's all that happened. We had lunch with Lily and Hanako. And then Misha's like, if you come help us after school, I won't tell on you. And then we were like, I don't want to help you after school. And she's like, that's fine. We were just going to eat cake anyway. And then they went off, and then we went to the library and did not have cake. And then they yawned. And that's all that happened. So I will see everyone in the next video.